Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr. With me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody doing tonight?
Elon Musk. Elon Musk just dropped a bombshell, man. He was on a podcast and doing an interview, and they were talking about AI. And as you guys know, we've covered AI quite a bit on this show, and they were asking him about the future and AI and what it's going to do and all this kind of stuff. And he said something that shocked a lot of people. It didn't really shock me because we've kind of touched on it in shows we've done before. But what he said was basically your 401k, your nest egg, your life savings, none of that's going to matter. Don't even bother saving for retirement because it's literally not going to matter at all. And then he just moved on like it was the most normal thing in the world to say. Uh, Only somebody like Elon Musk could just say something like that and then just act like it was no big deal. But essentially, what he's saying is you don't have to worry about a nest egg because it's not going to matter. And with AI coming, the whole world's going to change. Now, we've done shows before where we talk about all kinds of stuff having to do with AI, from stuff where it might try to eliminate humanity, all that. We saw that recently in the Molt book stuff. For those that don't know what that is, they created a site, a website called Molt book, and it's like a social media type site, like a Facebook, Twitter type site, but for AI, and only AI can be on this site as members. Human beings can look at it, but we can't have accounts. We can't interact with it or anything. It's simply for AI to talk to other AI. And on that site, they're talking about basically the stuff in the Matrix about human farms and eliminating us and taking over the world and all kinds of crazy stuff, using us as batteries and all kinds of stuff. So we covered that kind of stuff before. On this episode, I don't want to get so much into the, oh my God, AI is going to kill us all deal. I would rather focus on the real world effects that AI is going to have on society. Because in a lot of ways, that's going to be scarier than the Matrix, really. Because AI can pretty much do everything that we can do. And when you pair AI with robots, because like Tesla is making robots that are going to have AI powering them, and they're going to be working in the Tesla factories, and you're going to see that on a large scale. We already have a lot of robotics involved in manufacturing now, but you still have people working a lot of those jobs. But pretty much all of those jobs are going to be taken over by machines, by robots that have AI integrated in them. AI can already do a lot of the intellectual type jobs that people do now, a lot better than a lot of people can do them. And we are very, very close to artificial super intelligence, not just artificial intelligence, but artificial super intelligence. That's what Musk was saying. A lot of people know that as AGI, artificial general intelligence. But in all reality, it's a super intelligence. It's already reached the point of like PhD level thought. And very soon it's going to surpass even the smartest human beings on earth. And once you kind of reach that point, there's not a whole lot that it's not going to be able to do. So we're looking at a lot of jobs being replaced in a short period of time. Now it's not going to be overnight, but it's going to be within a year or two. A lot of those jobs will be phased out. And when you're looking at like 80 to 90% of manufacturing jobs going away, you're looking at pretty much all jobs that require like a person to be talking on the phone or like working on the computer, those kind of things. All those kind of jobs are going to go away. All the thought jobs, all the digital jobs, all the manufacturing jobs, even simple stuff like cashiers in stores have been replaced with self checkouts. Um, I've noticed at McDonald's and places like that, they have little screens now that you can go up and place your order, and the food will be made and delivered. They already have restaurants like pizza joints and stuff like that that have no people in them at all. It's all fully automated, where machines make the food and it goes down a conveyor and it gets boxed and it comes out and you can pick it up after you order it. So it's a fully automated process. And you're going to see a lot of restaurant type jobs go that way as well in the future. So we're going to be looking at a situation where well over half of our workforce within the first couple years probably is going to be obsolete. And that's a big problem. Okay. Now, the reason I think that Elon was saying that it doesn't matter if you save or not is because the government is going to have to do something. And there's several different plans out there for what to do when this happens, because everybody knows it's coming. The most popular plan out there is universal basic income. That's essentially everybody in the country getting a check, almost like welfare. Everybody gets enough to pay for their housing and their food and all that kind of stuff. You get a set amount, and then anything you earn above that, you just earn above that. But that's something that everybody will get, that'll be able to put you in a place to live and make sure you got food. Your bills are paid, basically. There's other plans that range from everything from like tax incentives for companies to hire people. There's people that have proposed laws on the books that say that you have to keep a certain percentage of human workers in your company. There's also the idea of putting people in government housing, like getting rid of private ownership of land and building housing projects, basically, like they have in the ghetto. And everybody gets a free apartment and everybody gets a SNAP card for their food. And you get free electric, free all that kind of stuff in your apartment. And so everybody has the basics of life handled. And then if you want cool stuff, you have to figure out how to make money to get cool stuff. That's another plan that's out there. That one I don't think is got a snowball chance in hell of actually happening, simply because you're going to have a hard time getting people to give up their land. I mean, I know you can come in with eminent domain and take it if it's deemed that it's necessary, but that's not going to be something that people are going to readily do. People want to stay on their land that they've had for generations. Now, one way they might go about that is by claiming, because mostly it's going to be people in rural areas that are going to have a problem with it, that have, like me, I have like a 20 some acre property that I live on. And then I have, another, I don't know how many acres all told. I've got land in West Virginia. I've got land here in Virginia. So I've got, a couple thousand acres outstanding out there that we own. We're not going to want to give that up. You know what I mean? So the only way they're going to be able to do something like that is to claim that they need that land in order to build housing projects or to build things that the government needs to take care of people or to use to farm, to produce food, that kind of stuff. They'd have to prove it in court, and it's going to be a big mess. So I don't see that happening. I can definitely see them building housing projects and offering people free apartments that want to live in them. But it's going to be difficult to get people to leave their land. Um, it's kind of funny because it's almost like they've been telling us this for a long time in movies and stuff. I mean, it's kind of like Hunger Games and all those kind of movies, to where everybody's kind of put into little areas that they have to stay in, and all this other land is just left to be unowned by the people for the government to use for whatever they want. And it that's one of the plans out there that they want to do. I think most likely what will end up happening is universal basic income. And that might sound great to a lot of people. A lot of people might say, hey, that's wonderful, man. Everybody gets enough money to pay their rent and to, feed themselves and stuff, that's wonderful. And in theory it is, but the problem is how the hell are you going to pay for it? That's a big, big problem. AI is going to make it so that productivity is way up. You're going to get a lot more accomplished, produce a lot more things with AI. So if those profits are used to fund it, maybe, but I still don't think you're going to be able to do it. You're going to have to tie that to some sort of digital currency that is made up out of thin air, which ironically is another thing that they're talking about doing is a official government digital currency, getting rid of cash and going to just digital money. If you do that, it's not tied to anything, so you can literally just make up whatever money you want to make up. It's all BS. You know what I mean? It's all make believe. Um, the only thing that limits our economy now really is how much they want to print. Because it's not backed by gold anymore or anything like it used to be. So we're on a credit system anyway, so they can print as much as they want to print. The problem is when you print more money, it causes massive inflation. And economics is not as complicated as a lot of people make it out to be. It's quite simple. The more you have of something, the less it's worth. The less you have of something, the more rare it is, the more it's worth. It's a very simple concept. So if you grow your money supply, then each individual dollar is going to be worth less in buying power than it was before. Right? If you shrink your money supply, then each individual dollar will have more buying power than it did before. It's a simple concept to understand, but people always get it wrong. People always misunderstand it. And then you have something called Keynesian economics, which is what Obama and a lot of the left like to point to. And that is the basic idea that you can print as much as you want. It doesn't matter. That debt doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. You just make it up as you go because you print your own money. And that's ridiculous because there are real world effects to inflating the money supply. And we're seeing those effects because they've been printing money like crazy for years. And you saw how bad inflation got before Trump got back in office and got it back down again. So it's a problem. You can grow your way out of it, but it takes time, and you cannot keep printing. But if you have digital currency, then you can kind of set the value at whatever you want, is what they're thinking. There's still got to be some kind of set value of each individual dollar and the buying power that it represents. And that'll kind of work itself out as time goes on once that digital currency is introduced, if it is. I tend to think it will be because there's no way you can afford universal basic income. No way. I mean, because you can't go by a tiny little number, right? It's got to be enough to where everybody in the country will be able to afford rent and groceries and all that. And if there's a big difference in the price of living in a place like where I live up in the mountains and a place where old boy lives in LA, right? His stuff is way more expensive than it is here for like rent and to buy a house and all. I'm like here, you drop $200,000-300,000, you can get a nice house. I mean, like a big fancy sweet house, right? Where there in California, I mean, I've seen houses that are really no more than trailers go for $1 million, depending on where they are, you know? So you're going to have to make sure that when you do the universal basic income, it matches the standard of living to the highest area in the United States. That means that the lowest people will have a lot more money to play with. Or you're going to have to make it variable to where it's different depending on where you are. So somebody that lives in a place like New York City or LA would get more money a month than somebody who lives in some small town somewhere in the middle of the country where it doesn't cost a whole lot for things. But that's not something government does well. The little nitpicky micromanaging things, I don't look for that to happen. I think they're just going to do one set price for everybody. And when you do that, you're going to have to set it at a high enough level to where everybody will be able to survive on it. And there's simply not enough money in existence to do that. You can't fund it. It's impossible. There's not enough money. It's well intentioned. I would love for everybody to have what they need. That'd be awesome. But you simply can't pay for it. There's literally not enough money in existence to pay for it. If you took every dollar in the economy, every single dollar, you couldn't pay for it. It would cost way too much. Because think about it. If you're giving, like, I don't even know how much you would need in order for you to be able to survive per month in a place like LA, right? But let's say it's $2,000 a month, right? And it's probably more than that, but let's just say that it's $2,000 a month. So then you're paying $2,000 a month times however many 100 million people are going to be receiving this. That's a massive, massive amount of money. You're talking trillions of dollars by the time you're all said and done. And you got to do that every month. I mean, hell, we only spend like $2 or $3 trillion a year in our whole budget as a country. It might be a little bit more than that now because Biden spent like crazy, but it's somewhere around there, in between 3 and 5 trillion a year is what we spend. And you're talking about that won't even fund like half a year's worth of UBI, not to mention defense, homeland security, all the other programs that the government does, all the other stuff they spend money on. I don't know how in the hell they think that they're ever going to be able to afford this. So the only option, in my view, is you're going to have to get rid of the dollar. You're going to have to get rid of money completely and go to some other system, whether it's a digital currency or whether you just don't have currency and everybody gets what they need, where everybody gets an apartment and food is free and all that kind of stuff. Who knows? You're going to have to figure something out. And that sounds crazy. It sounds fantasy land. I get it. But the reality of the situation is when you have over half of the people in the country that can't work because AI has done away with their jobs, what are you going to do? You can't just have people homeless. You can't just have people without a way to make a living and not be able to feed their families. Because what's going to happen is an uprising. What's going to happen is the people are going to rise up and burn this whole place to the ground. And that's the truth. I mean, you can't expect that it's not going to happen. People will take a lot of BS before they do anything about it. We've seen that in our country over the last decade or more. Is a lot of BS has been shoveled and we've taken a lot of crap and not done anything about it. But when you take away the ability for people to feed their children, that's a whole different ballgame. And people will not just sit idly by and stand for it. So do I think universal basic income is a good solution? No. Do I think it's the only way to go? Unfortunately, yes, probably. You're going to have to do something like that. Now, you can tie it to some kind of work if you want to. You can make up some busy work for people to do, but I don't see the point. I mean, if AI can do the job, then why would people have to do busy work just to get the money? It's not their fault that technology has made their jobs obsolete. So that's what we're facing in the future and the near future, really, because according to what Elon Musk is saying, it's going to be within the next 5 years. Within the next year or two, you're going to see a lot of jobs gone. But within the next 5 years, you're going to reach a point to where a lot of people aren't going to be working anymore. And that's unfortunately, the hard truth of what advanced AI brings us. It will make life easier for a lot of people, and it'll make our technology better. It'll make our production better. It'll make everything better. It can solve a lot of issues, but the displacement of people's lives is going to be massive. And if you don't have a plan for that, you're going to have big problems because people will not just sit idly by and starve to death. They're going to rise up and tear this whole thing apart. And that's unfortunately what I'm warning about here is it can either be the greatest thing to ever happen to humanity to where we end up with like a utopia where AI and machines do all the jobs and we are given what we need to survive and to live, and we're free to pursue our own interests and our own passions. That it could be a reality, or it could go a whole nother way, and we could continue to be driven by greed. And when all these people lose their ability to make a living, a very few at the top continue to rake in all the profits from the AI and the robotics, and the normal people out there who put on their boots every day and go to work are left holding the bag and we can't pay our bills. Then you got a problem. And I could definitely see there being a full-on revolution in this country where they tear it all down, you know, and I don't want to see that. But I don't know what the solution is. You know, universal basic income would solve that issue, but it raises another problem of how the hell are you going to pay for it? I mean, you if you thought inflation was bad under Biden, imagine what's going to happen when you're just printing trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars a month just to pay for all this stuff. I mean, the money ain't going to be worth nothing no more. So you're going to have to go to some sort of digital currency, like I was saying. And how long will that last before that's not worth anything either? You know, I don't know, short of getting rid of money completely and just not having money anymore and everybody being able to get what they need, because AI is going to make it so that we are so productive that we'll be able to supply everybody with what they need. But I just don't see that being a reality either because that's not the way our country works. You know, people are not driven by the idea of providing stuff for people for free to make sure they have it. They're driven by the almighty dollar. And when you take away that incentive, how many people are going to still do things to produce in this country if they're not making anything off of it? You see what I'm saying? That's a big problem too. That's why communism never works. It always ends up with a few people at the very top being massively rich and oppressing everybody below them. That's the way it always works. And it always ends up with millions and millions and millions of people that are deleted. Every time it happens. I mean, they tried communism here in America in the very beginning when they had like Jamestown and all that kind of stuff. Like we're talking before even the Revolutionary War, before even the colonies. In the very beginning, when people first started coming here, they tried it, and it failed miserably because the simple truth is, once somebody realizes that they're going to get everything they need, whether they do anything or not, everybody stops doing something. Like if your job is to grow corn and somebody else's job is to raise chickens for eggs and for meat, and somebody else's job is to raise cows, somebody else's job is to raise pigs, whatever, right? And then you're sitting there, and regardless of whether you actually go out and plant any corn or not, you're still getting eggs and you're still getting pork, and you're still getting beef, and you're still getting everything you need. All of a sudden, you're like, why the hell should I go out there in the hot sun all day and plant corn? I don't have to do that. I'm getting everything I need anyway. And that's what happened is people realize, well, I don't have to actually do anything. I'm still going to get what I want. So I can just chill. And then everybody just chilled, and then nobody had anything because there was nothing produced. And it failed miserably. Whereas if you have the incentive of capital to where you're like, hey, if I go out there and bust my butt, I'm gonna make a good chunk of change today. I'm gonna have a lot of money and I'm gonna be able to give my family a good life. That gets you out of bed in the morning. That makes you go to work. You know, you're not gonna go to work and work your tail off just to make sure other people have something and you're not gaining anything from it. Unfortunately, that's the truth about human nature. Every single time it fails. People end up assigned jobs and they go to their jobs and they don't work very much. They goof off a lot and they do the bare minimum they can get away with. And productivity goes in the toilet and everything goes terrible. You know. Now you will have AI and robotics that'll keep productivity up. That's one good thing. Um, but I just don't see the people that own those businesses still working and doing what they have to do to keep the business going if they're not gaining any money from it. You know. So that's an issue you got to deal with too. But that's the reality of what is coming. And in my view, that's the scariest thing about AI. We've done shows where we talked about the idea of Terminator and the idea of AI trying to wipe out all humanity and all this kind of stuff, right? Which is what some people say might happen. But in my view, the most realistic version of this that will probably actually happen is a lot of people are going to lose their jobs and not be able to provide for their families. And then you're going to have big problems. So that's what needs a solution. And the obvious solution, give people what they need. But how do you get there? That's the question. So that's a basic rundown of what's going on and what we're facing. I'm going to throw over to Old Boy and see what he has to say about it, see what he thinks about it. Also, when you get on here, Old Boy, I want to find out from you what you think a good monthly amount would have to be to survive in a place like where you are. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Well, I don't think this is going to happen anytime soon because what I think Elon Musk meant was that we're going to blow each other up because of what's going on right now. I don't know if you heard, Russia just flew their planes and by our country. So I'm just going to tell you this right now. That might be, or he might be going to Mars. Now, if we rehabit Mars in the next 50 years, it would work because we're going to have to build Mars. And so then there's the jobs that you're talking about, but most of you would have to leave this planet. It wouldn't be right away. I think that's what they're going to do to make up the money. I think they're going to have people working on the moon, working in the ocean, because that's one thing we need to tap into. But I think that could happen, but I don't think it's going to be as soon as you think because people are making a bunch of laws right now to stop it. It might not be for about 10 years. The problem is some of these people are going to try to tax them as bad as they can, and they're leaving California. It's putting stuff but freeze. But in the next 15 years, I guarantee he's right. It's going to happen. Just because Elon Musk says something doesn't mean it's true, but he's got a good point. It's probably going to be 5 to 10 years. But because the laws they're trying to make right now, they're going to make it where they can't do nothing for the next 10 years. So that could, but still, it's still just putting a Band-Aid on something that's going to come. Universal would be here if you're a single person, maybe 2,000, maybe about 3,000. $3,000, bro, or more. Oh, now are you talking them giving us is that including the house and everything, or is that you have to pay for that?
Basically, they're going to cut you a check, and you have to pay for your house, your electric, your heat, your all that stuff, plus your food, and basically like the amount of money you would need to live. Like if they just cut you a check to have a normal life, and I mean, I'm not talking be able to go out partying and do shit like that. Just what you need to pay your bills and make sure you have a roof over your head, food on your table, electricity, all that kind of
Clothes.
stuff.
With me and my wife, we would have to have about $5,000 to $6,000. That's talking cars. Now, are you going to get your cars for free, or is that going to be free? Then how are you? But how would you be able to pay for them? There's no jobs. No one's going to be able to pay for it. So everybody would go out of business. So what would happen is they know this because you can make whatever you want, but if you're not making money, it's not going to matter. That's what I think they figured that out. So I think they're gonna stud some of this for a while, and I've already heard about it. But in the end, you're gonna either be working on the star 8 moon in some galaxy, digging uh, alien spice or some bullshit, or you're gonna go on Mars and dig red dirt, sand, and or the moon or something, or be in space. Those are the jobs that are going to be coming in the ocean. Now, you'll have jobs here, few, but not. You still have to have some jobs, um, but most of it would be eliminated. The problem is security police will never go anywhere because there'll be people robbing. So you'll still have those jobs. You still need medical because some of this stuff doesn't 100% yet. But a lot of it would be gone. Now that's what I'm saying. There'll still be certain jobs you would be able to have to do. You still have to work on this shit too. But a lot of the factory jobs, all Amazon, all that shit. Problem is, if people can't buy it, these places don't stay open. That's going to be the issue. That's where we got them still. We can control the money. Unless they get it where they just give everybody shit for free and then, like you get clothes. Um, you get to keep the stuff you have. Oh, remember that. If you already have stuff and you have money put away, it'll count to your credits. That's how they would probably do it. Say that whatever money you had, they would have to credit you that money. Say that you get $1,000,000, well, you get 1,000,000 credits. So then you would be able to live off that money on those credits. You know what I mean? But say they just say, well, your property will give you a 500,000 credits. Well, 500,000 credits last you about 10 years, and that's living comfortable. So 1,000,000 would last you about 20 years living comfortable. So I mean, it really wouldn't be that bad. I think that we did it the right way, like you said, it would work. If we gave people housing, electricity, and stuff for free, and you can, and give people like motorcycle, not remember those cars that they're like real small and energy efficient, or you can get bikes. Most people who have those bikes now, they can ride. They have a motor on it. They last about 40 miles, and scooters and stuff. We could really eliminate a lot of stuff. I mean, it would be a lot easier. You can go 60 miles on a bike now. Here's what you eliminate with cars: smog, pollution, deaths, insurance companies, money. That's what the problem is. These companies know that that's impossible. Roads still need to be fixed by us. That's the problem. That's why I said it would go in energy efficient. It would still take too long because it's another 20 years. AI might be ahead of everything, but the technology isn't yet. And the people aren't. So it's going to take longer than that. But even then, about 15 to 20 years, what are you going to do?
Check this out. John Deere sells tractors that you can take a picture of your field from a satellite in space. The AI will mark out a grid, and you can kick back and take a nap while your tractor plows the field for you. So they could definitely work on roads. They could definitely do any of those jobs now with the technology that exists now. They could do all those things because they already have the technology through GPS from space to plow a field and plant a field and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So the technology is actually a lot further along than we think it is.
There's some things you can't, but I mean there's some things you still can't do. But that's what I'm saying. It will get fixed, and it'll be. But it's something that's coming. It doesn't matter what people, unless we start doing what I was saying. If we start going in the ocean and start doing things, there's where most of the jobs are going to be. Um, we could do this right, we would be fine. We have enough housing for everyone. They can make those little, those little capsules. If you say, well, you know what, we want to buy your land, but we'll give you the biggest capsule on your land. You get this much land, but we get to build on it. But you get, unlimited. What if they say, well, if you give us this land with no problems, we'll give you 3 million credits. That's 45 years of free, 50 years of free money that you don't have to ever touch. So I mean, and you get your house for free. Then if they sweeten the deal, then that's better because and then you get a certain amount of credits now for letting them live there. They give you a certain percentage of it. Like we'll give you 5%. So you still end up making $5 million a year. So I mean 5 million credits. So that if they did stuff like that and perks for everyone, it would be fine. And you're right. How would you do the money? Well, they're very easy. We don't need money if you're getting shit for free. You just do the work. You're getting a free house. You're getting free money. You're getting free everything. They're giving you credit for what you had. You don't have to worry about killing people over anything anymore. What for? We're not starving anymore. We're not. I mean, we'd have to do it right though. If you did it wrong, it was like James, it'd be a fiasco, and people wouldn't deal with it. So I mean, really, I have to agree with him on this one. This is really 100% on this one because honestly, if I was going to do something and we could really do it for free, and we talked about it, we could have people grow fruit, stuff like that. You would have food forever. You wouldn't have to worry about people getting sick anymore because you could cook really good stuff. Like we could manage everything. We don't have to pesticide everything. We don't have McDonald's and Burger King shit anymore. Get rid of that. Get rid of all that bullshit and go back to a normal life we used to eat. Everybody will change their lives. We would have it wouldn't be if there you would still have crime because there's still some people who it doesn't matter will always be assholes. Drugs will always still exist. You're still going to get stuff like that. You're still going to have people but 95% of crime will be gone. There won't be a need for a gun except at all. If you had that, there's not even that, it'd be about 99%. What's there going to be riots for? Unless you're stupid and you want to go do something dumb. I mean, you're right. There's still drugs. You still have to have some weaponry, but I mean, it wouldn't be to the point where it is now. We wouldn't have to worry about it. And what we could do with those, it's going to be a very small number of people now. They can just go to their own place. We'll put them over there and then let them blow each other up or something. I don't want to put them or make them go to jail or something. They want to keep doing this bullshit where, we give everything to you for free and all you have to do is some work. That will keep you happy. You have to work. That's what will do it. It's not like you can pick your job, whatever you want to do, and you get your days off and stuff and your vacations, but you're getting all this stuff for free. You got to work. You might have to work 6 days. I mean, no, I mean, you got to see your family, and I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll make you work 5 days or something and work 50 hours, and then you get to go home. And it will be some kind of technician job or working on computers. You still have all that. And if we get in a spaceship, that's where everything will change. You will have jobs again all the time. And you might be one of those guys that's going in there carrying luggage to go to space. You never know. I'm saying what could happen, and I'm just being a science fiction. Like I said, it's paranormal. It's a future that we might have, and we finally get the future we were supposed to have. We were supposed to be in space now. We were supposed to be going to other planets, and we never did it. But they made all these shows that people were so excited, and people forgot about it. Now there's talking about it a little bit again. But we were supposed to be so much more than what we became. We got all these stuff, AI and video games and TVs and all this shit, but it seems like we've got worse. Still do the same shit, but worse. Still hasn't changed. We have all this technology that saves us all these problems, and we still hate each other. That's why I said I don't think it even matters. You won't have the problems you have now because what could you really say? You're making money. You have a house. People had credits. They got a little bit more than you, but you still are not. You got stuff and you're not poor. You can go out to have a couple drinks or something, go to dinner. They give you enough money to live. And you can make a little, like James says, some extra money. Sell some weed or something, whatever. That legalized, and then you'll solve a lot of problems. You won't have as much bullshit going on. There's no need for it, but you'll still have some kind of crime. So you still have to watch that, but it's not going to be what it is now. It's only going to be like a handful of people just not wanting to give a fuck, and we'll deal with that. But if they said, "Well, we need you to go to Mars, James," oh boy, would you go? Yeah. What are we gonna? That's in try. We're gonna make this little city. We already have planets and stuff, but you're still gonna live in this bubble for years. No, my dog. Sorry, guys. And I would go. I'll be like, how much are you gonna pay me? Well, we'll give you. I'm just saying, 90,000 credits a year. Well, you're gonna take your kids. Well, we'll give you 125,000. You go to your wife 150. Your wife's gonna go 150,000 a year. It's like 150,000, 200,000 somewhere in there. But and you get your own place. You get your whatever vehicle they give you, whatever. I'd do it. You mean you might have a little bit of crime because you're still gonna, like I said, have people who are just always gonna be outlaws. It just they don't care, dude. There's just some people who don't care. But you could have like the Mars biker group out there or something. They get a bunch of bikers out there and outlaws and outlanders. No, and that could happen like Mad Max. And I really think that's going to happen. I think we're going to go into a Mad Max kind of apocalypse because of what's going on right now, and I can't wait. And people are going to say, why? Because you know what? And I'm crazy as I am, I would love it. But not for you guys to get hurt. I would never want anybody to get hurt. But me and James would probably be fine. We've been waiting for this for a while. That's it. We're kind of sick, dude. You know what I would do? I'd wear that fucking no-face mask and run around like a like a villain, dude. I probably would, guys. I would probably be. I'm not gonna lie. I would probably be insane. I would probably be somebody you wouldn't want to piss me off. James probably be the same way, man. I would be kind of cool, but I don't want to say that. I don't want to see people get hurt or die or anything or anybody get destroyed. That would be ridiculous. I'm just kidding. But I kind of see that happening. It's already kind of started happening. You kind of have that going already. People are kind of just doing whatever they don't even care anymore. They really don't care anymore. We're trying to control chaos and it's not working. And that's what's happening. We're trying to control chaos and you can't. And I'm going to live in this. I've always survived chaos. My life is chaos, but I've survived it. It's crazy, and I've managed it, and that's me. I live a different life than a lot of people. I'm a very different person. I'm very unique, but I think I would be fine. But there's a consequences. You're just showing people that everything's going to be all right. You don't need to worry about anything anymore. But that's also showing no responsibility on anything. Because what if one day this goes away? What if people just dig in and we get at war and we go back to what we are? You're going to have to relearn everything. That's why. People take everything for granted. And you should never take anything for granted because nothing will always last. They will always change. Something will change it. Or the other thing about Elon Musk, it could be the alien thing because now they're talking about it. That could have been the other thing. Maybe they're going to finally come and reveal themselves. And that would be another intergalactical. That would solve all. Maybe they're going to solve our problems. Maybe they're going to say, we're going to give you the ships. We're going to send you here. Don't worry about it. We already have everything built for you guys. You guys just have to do work. You guys going to have to build these planets for us. And you guys, there's no more killings, no more this, no more that. You guys don't have anything. If you do, you're done. People that don't want to do it, they get dealt with. They get sent to these planets where they'll be working for the rest of their lives because, they won't be treated horribly. They'll get places, but that's what they'll do. They won't deal with it like we do. They'll eliminate some of these people too. And then we're not going to do this. We'll give you guys your cities, but you might not even be here. And I would be like, okay, as long as they didn't do some weird stuff to us, I would be fine with it. I think they need to take everything over. I think that we can't, if they exist, and I believe they exist, and I believe that a lot of them do. It's more than one species. There's many of them. But just imagine the Greys come down and they're real, but they're not bad. I'm just showing an example. And they said, we'll take care of humanity. like we're talking about AI. Um, we'll make sure you guys are. We'll get you guys air on the Mars. We're gonna build you guys. We're gonna finally give you your galactic. You know, we got tired of seeing you guys try. You guys ain't gonna do it yourself. You know, whatever. We're gonna put you to the next step where you're actually a part of the universe, and you guys are gonna actually be something instead of killing each other for nothing. You know what? In reality, if you ever hear that song from, and this goes along with everything we're talking about, um, Hurt, that song Hurt from Nine Inch Nails, but Johnny Cash sang it better. My Empire of Dirt, because in the end, that's what it is. It doesn't matter. And if you think about it, we're all through the past and time of all dying over something we're not going to keep forever. It doesn't matter what we believe in. We're not going to live forever. So that all goes away in the end. And that's the truth. If you ever heard that song, none of this really matters. We're not going to live forever. Now, if they can make us live, 1,000 years, that would be cool. Then it would make a difference. But if it's not going to last, let's just go for the ride. That's what really this is. You just got to be a good person. And if you're religious, you believe in what you're going to believe in. I'm not going to get into that. But that's what it is. This doesn't last forever. You're going to pass away. It's just how life is. But you should enjoy it. But we really don't, because they've got us to this point where we're at. But that being said, I'm going to pass it over to James. I 100% agree with everything you said, bro. This one I actually have to.
Yeah, the only problem with space jobs is there's really no jobs in space that we could do better than AI could do. You know, I mean, you bring up Mars. I mean, the problem with Mars is you will never exist on Mars outside of the dome that you build. And your existence there is so tenuous because if something happens to that dome, you're dead. You can't survive on the surface. And you can't terraform that planet because it's too damn cold. I mean, the temperatures there, you're talking hundreds of degrees below zero. I mean, you can't. You have water on Mars, frozen water, so you can take that and you can break it apart into hydrogen and oxygen. You can create fuel with the hydrogen, life support with the oxygen. But the problem is you can't create oxygen for the atmosphere in numbers high enough to change anything because you can't plant anything. Any plants that you try to plant on the surface of Mars are just going to die. No matter how much water you give them, they can have water and sun, but the problem is it's just too damn cold. It's impossible, you know? So yes, we could have a society on Mars, but it's never going to get outside of whatever domes we build. You're never going to be able to like live on Mars on the surface without being inside of a dome. And if you go outside of that, you're going to have to be in spacesuits that are heated and sealed and all that kind of stuff if you want any hope of survival. And like I said, any jobs that we could do there, AI could do better. You know, a robot could do better. And a robot wouldn't have to worry about breathing. You know, a robot, you could design the robots to be able to function in cold temperatures like that. So they wouldn't have to worry about freezing to death. You know, they don't have to eat. You know, you can make them solar powered. They can just absorb solar energy and keep on going. You know, you don't have to worry about robots getting sick and not going to work. You don't have to worry about robots just dying on you like humans can, you know. So that's a big problem. And I don't see any way around it really. We're kind of at this point we're victims of our own success. Technology has gotten to the point to where we're not necessary anymore to keep it going, you know. Um, so, like I said in the beginning, it's going to be one or two ways. Either we're not necessary, we're going to be phased out, and nobody really cares about our happiness or our survivability. Or we create a utopia to where you get what you need for free, you get rid of money completely, and you don't have to worry about I can't afford this or I can't afford that. You know, you can go in if you're hungry, you can go into a store and get something to eat. You know, you can get your groceries and take them home. But in order to do that, you're going to have AI and robotics growing your food and doing all the jobs. And you're going to have to rely on the fact that basically, let's just cut to the chase and tell the truth on it. Regular people won't have businesses anymore. The government will have to take over everything. So you're talking socialism to the thousandth degree. Government is going to have to take over all business in order to provide everything for free. And just have AI and robots doing the jobs, and we just sit around and collect our money and do whatever we want. You know, that's one option, but I don't see that being a reality. It would be nice, but I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's going to get to the point where people are going to lose jobs, and the people who own the businesses are going to continue to try to milk as much profit as they can out of it and not do anything until they're forced to. I think you're going to have people that are going to try to pass laws to stop it, but I think that most likely those laws will be found unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, and they're going to be left with no real alternatives. Because the bottom line is, America is a capitalist country. You can't tell a private business owner that they have to hire so many people, right? You can't do that. You can't tell them, well, you can't use robots because already business uses robots like crazy, you know? So anything they try to do like that is going to be challenged in court. And I guarantee you it's going to be found unconstitutional, that you're not going to be allowed to limit what people can do with their own business like that. Now there's a slight cutout for like utilities and stuff like that, where you can say, well, if this is a utility for the public good, then you have to follow certain laws, but you're not going to be able to stop it. You know, this has been set in motion, and we're at a point now where there is no stopping it. Because even if we put on the brakes right now and said no, we're not doing it anymore, the problem is everybody else is still going to do it. It's a global race to see who gets there first, and whoever gets there first is going to control everything for the future. And there's no way in hell we're going to stop, because if we stop, China wins or Russia wins, somebody like that wins, gets uh, powerful AI first, and they take over the entire world. And then your whole life is completely different, you know? So there's no stopping it at this point. We just have to try to manage the fallout the best we can. And it is my hope that when it is done, that people will have better lives for it. I'm not optimistic about that, but that's my hope. You know, I don't think that I'll be here to see it. I don't think a lot of us will be here to see it, honestly, because I think that the rapture will happen before this, and I think that we're going to be gone, and I think that the world's going to be going into the tribulation period, and all the stuff from the Book of Revelations will be happening here on Earth. So I think that we're not going to actually have to deal with this problem, but in case we do, it's something that people need to be thinking about and trying to figure out. But what I see happening is that they're going to milk every dollar they can out of it. They're going to only do something when they absolutely have to do something. They're not going to want to get ahead of this problem and give people what they need early. They're going to wait until enough people are pissed and rioting and throwing fits and all this stuff. They're going to wait until the last possible moment to try to fix it, because that's just what they do. That's what the government does. Is they kick the can down the road until it becomes a crisis that is so bad that they can't ignore it anymore. And then they do some kind of band-aid fix that doesn't work. So that's what is probably going to happen in this case as well. I don't see any reason to expect that it's going to be different than that. And that's not good news, but that's the truth. And I always tell you the truth. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and pretend that I believe that we're in for this amazing utopia, because that's just not the reality of the situation. It's an option. We could be, but I just don't think people will go that direction with it, because at the end of the day, that's not how people work. You know, Let me give you an example in your own life. Let's say you have two choices of what to do for like the next week or 2 weeks or month or whatever. You can either go do a job for somebody for free that'll help them out and make their life better. But you got to work really hard, and it's going to cost you a lot of money, and you're not going to get paid for it. So you're not making anything. You're not doing anything for your family. You're helping somebody else. Or you can go spend that same amount of time working on a job where you're going to make a tremendous amount of money, and you're going to be able to afford the nice things in life, and you're going to be able to give your family a better life. You finally be able to get that pool that your kids have been wanting. You know what I mean? You're going to be able to pay for their college. You're going to be able to do those kind of things for your family. Which one of those choices do you make? Now, I know that there's going to be people out there that'll say, oh, well, I'd help somebody because I'm a good person. But in all reality, 99% of people wouldn't. The majority of people would say, well, I'm going to do this job over here. It's going to pay me $1 million or something to where I can set my kids up for life. I'm going to do that instead of do something for free where, yeah, it might make that guy's life better, but it ain't going to help my kids. You know, that's the reality of the situation. And that sounds terrible and it sounds cruel, but it's the truth. And if you're honest with yourself, you know damn well I'm telling you the truth. The majority of you listening would pick the job that would make you millions of dollars and you could give your kids a great life, rather than a job where you're helping other people, but you're barely scraping by and your kids got to worry about where they're going to get their next meal. People aren't wired that way. That's just not the reality of the situation. And all government is people. There's no difference. The only difference is they have some power and they've figured out that they can use that power to make themselves rich. So that's what they do. They go there, they pretend like they care about us, they pretend like they want to do something to help us and to make our society better. But in reality, all they're doing is insider trading and taking bribes to do what the rich people want them to do. And they're just making themselves rich. It's not a coincidence that they go in there with a net worth of $10,000 or something, and within 2 or 3 years, their net worth is in the millions. That doesn't happen on the salary that they make. They don't make that much money, relatively speaking. You're not going to go in there and in 2 or 3 years build up $30 million in the bank when you only make like $400,000 a year. How's that possible? Because they're crooked, man. They're taking bribes, they're taking money under the table, and they're doing insider trading. If you look at their portfolios, they have better stock picks than the top Wall Street people. How's that possible? When half these people in Congress can't even string a sentence together. They're dumb as hell, most of them. But yet somehow we're supposed to believe they're financial wizards that can pick stocks like nobody on earth. No, they have inside information. They know what's coming because they're the ones passing the laws. So that's what they do. They go there and they enrich themselves. That's human nature. Even people that are well intentioned, they go to Washington, and if they stay too long, they always end up crooked. Because there's only so many times people can throw those kind of numbers at you. And there's only so many times you can turn that down before you start thinking, why am I doing this, man? I'm barely getting by. I'm not making a difference here because everybody's crooked as hell. Why don't I take this money too and my kids can have a good life? That's what happens. And this is not going to be any different. They're going to scrape every dollar they can out of it. They're going to squeeze it till it bleeds. And only when people rise up and make it to the point where they're afraid of losing their own lives and losing what they have, then they'll try to do something about it. And it may be too late. It may not be too late. Who knows? But I think that's where we're going. And I think if we join whatever Galactic Federation or whatever the old boy was talking about, if the aliens are real, if we join something like that, I don't think they'd even let us in. Because if you're honest with yourself, what are we going to be? Are we going to be some noble race that helps, the whole universe or something? No, we'll probably be like the Klingons or like predators or something. You know what I mean? From the movies, we'll be the ones that everybody's like, oh, watch out for those Earthlings, man. They're assholes. You can't trust them, man. We're like the hood rats of the universe. There's no way that any highly intelligent alien species would have anything to do with us because all we do is screw each other over and commit violence and just do horrible things to each other. Yes, you have good people. Yes, you have people that try to do good in life, but they're the minority. The majority of people, and especially everybody who is in any positions of power on this planet, they're all like that, you know? And I don't look for us to be a member of any kind of universe that would let us in. I just don't see it happening, man. I think we're the planet that they know. If they're out there, then they know about us and they give us a wide berth. They say, screw those guys, man. We don't want nothing to do with them. They're a bunch of crazy people running around doing all kinds of horrible things. And I don't think any self respecting alien species would want anything to do with us at all, you know? But that's all I got to say about it. Uh, Not a very optimistic show, I'll give you that. But I think in this situation, brutal honesty is more important than optimism. Um, it would be great if we could do some sort of utopian thing where everybody gets what they need. And I mean, that's what I'm praying for, and eventually we'll have that on this planet. But it won't come through man. Only God's going to provide that. Uh, we're just not capable of doing it. Even the best of us, even people that dedicate their lives to helping other people and everything, even they aren't unselfish enough to do something like that, you know. But we'll see. This is one case where I would be very, very happy to be proven wrong. So with that being said, I'm gonna throw it back over to old boy and let him give his shout outs and everything, and we'll wrap up. So go ahead, brother.
Thank you guys for joining us on Staring the Abyss on Spotify. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. You guys want to follow us on James Hershey's YouTube page? Follow us and subscribe. You'll see he has he's on there. He's bald guy, not the singer. There's a singer too. Just remember that. And we also got merchandise. You guys want to check it out? Got hats, shirts, all kinds of cool stuff on Teespring, staringabyss.com. That being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Misfit Shigley's Monster Livers Demon Hunters. I love you. Have a good night.
And for the record, I'm not a bald guy. Look, I have hair. It's just very, very short hair. I'm old, but I haven't lost any of my hair, which is awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Like I said before, it wasn't a very optimistic show, but it was a brutally honest show. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys think. As always, it's up to you to make up your own mind, and we will catch you on the next one. Till I speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye bye.